Reporting with the Gateway Pundit, and I'm here with Jack Posobeic of One American News. What do you think is going to happen tonight, Jack?
You know, I think really what we might see to end up seeing tonight is a split decision. We might see a situation where the Republicans maintain or even increase some of their side in the Senate, increase the majority there, where as it looks, the House might end up going Democrat. You know, the Republicans going into this, they had a lot of seats, over 60 seats to defend, really a nationwide spread, and the Democrats were able to come in hard and heavy. They only needed 23 because the Republican majority wasn't that high to begin with. So I do think that it's starting to shake out and look like the Democrats might have a very slim majority in the House, but the Republicans still could hold off. But I think this may be a 60-30 chance that the Republicans do go down, they lose the majority, and the Democrats take a very slim majority. Now, what's interesting about that, as disheartening as it is, but the thing we have to think about is that the 2020 election is right around the corner, and with Trump at the top of the ballot, even though the Republicans weren't able to pull it off themselves without Trump on the ballot, with him at the top of the ballot, there is a 100% chance, as far as I'm concerned, that the Republicans do come back in 2020 to win the majority and retake and recapture the House.
When you think about all the scandal that we've witnessed the Democrats partake in over the last 2 years, everything from the Russia probe to Elizabeth Warren using the race card, claiming she's Native American, to the Kavanaugh accusers, the FBI reports confirmed they were all lying. What is it that the conservative base doesn't get? Why didn't they go out to vote today if your predictions are accurate?
Well, I think it's kind of the opposite, actually. I think it's more of that middle of the ground voter. I think it's that, that person that came out to vote for Trump for the very first time in 2016. They're not someone that's checked into politics all the time. They're someone who Donald Trump was able to reach out to because he speaks to a different constituency in America than any other politician does. So someone who's the core base of Trump is, yeah, they definitely came out and voted today. But it's that first-time voter in 2016 that's probably checked out of politics right now, that knows Trump was elected, that votes in presidential elections, but doesn't really pay attention to midterms. You know, Trump himself actually said just yesterday that whoever even heard of a midterm election, right? So it's something that in a mainstream sense wasn't that big until he got into the political game, and I think that we're actually going to see that reflected in turnout numbers today.
I mean, do Democrats have an advantage? Obviously, they control the media, they control Hollywood, and basically the pop culture. That's their advantage, but what are conservatives doing wrong then? They're able to galvanize their base, and we're not energized, it seems like.
My biggest criticism for the Republicans, or I think the biggest room for improvement that they have, let's put it that way, is the creation of a ground game. I would love to see between 2018 and 2020 the Republicans going into every swing state that they need to pick up that Trump re-election to build a substantial ground infrastructure. This is something that didn't exist in 2016. They had time to build it between 2016 and 2018. That didn't happen. They focused a lot on text messaging. They focused a lot on virtual phone banking. But the actual ground game, that physical, in-your-face, door-knocking exercise that the Democrats have always been very strong at, the Republicans actually used to. Traditionally speaking, it was thought that Republicans had the strongest ground game, and that was true for a large part through the 90s and through the 2000s. But then up until, I guess, 2012 and then after, the Republican ground game has largely fallen apart. It's sort of withered on the vine. I think that with the advent of social media, there's a large drive for clicks and views and retweets, and those are great. And obviously, look, I'm a creature of social media myself. I love it. But we need to reinvest in our ground game. We need to rebuild our ground game. That is the recipe for success for the Republicans.
One last question. What about the Walk Away campaign? We saw about 5,000 former Democrats, predominantly former Democrats, marching in D.C. last weekend. We saw Brexit happening at the same time. Is that really not as effective as we think it is? Or do you think conservatives are making this segue with the demographics that typically think conservatives are racist and Nazis?
When I first saw Walk Away, when I first saw Brexit, I was very, what's the word I'm looking for? I was very motivated by it. I really liked it. But the one thing that I also noticed was when you're saying walk away, when you're saying Brexit, when you're coming, and I don't mean to take away from those because I think they're absolutely valuable. I think those are vital operations. I think those are incredible. But what's important to notice is that you're walking away from the Democrat Party, but you're not necessarily walking to the Republican Party. So that's the step that the Republicans need to come in and then go in and capture those voters and really earn those votes. They need to earn those votes in a way that the Democrats lost them, but that doesn't necessarily mean the Republicans are going to win them automatically. I think of those voters as free agents, and when they're free agents, what do you got to do? You've got to woo them. You've got to explain to them. You've got to sell to them. You've got to say, why do I want to come to your side? You've got to market to them. You've got to reach out to them. So they're out there. They're on the table, and it's the Republicans' job moving forward to go out and get those voters.
I guess the GOP might, well, we'll see what happens tonight. I guess the GOP might not have done a good enough job luring those potential supporters in.
It's a process. It's a process. What can I say? It's always a process. And remember, there's always another election.